The case against former Steinhoff director Stephanus Grobler has been postponed to the 14th of February next year. Earlier, Grobler appeared in the Pretoria Specialized Commercial Crimes Court on charges of racketeering, manipulation of financial statements and fraud. It is alleged that between 2014 and 2016, then CEO Markus Jooste, who is now deceased, and Grobler conducted racketeering activities within the Steinhoff Group on documentation of transactions that supported the fraudulent transaction that was used to inflate and falsify the annual financial statements. SABC News economics reporter Katlego Legodi was in court and is now in studio joining us. Hi Katlego, thank you so much for your time. So the case has been postponed, but before we even go to the reasons why, perhaps remind us a little bit about the significance of Grobler and who he is in the bigger Steinhoff matter.
A very good afternoon to you, Diabo, and to our viewers at home. Well, this, very well that has been described as the biggest multinational scandal whereby corporate issues are concerned, and we see really the executive within that entity that has since been liquidated being the ones that are brought to the courts to try by all means to answer as to what has been happening there. He was the director of this company, and most of these things would flow through him. He would be aware of certain things that are happening, so he's able to account in terms of the revenue and the standings of the entity. Listed here in South Africa and in Germany, we see it just moving to try by all means to a holding company, basically in this regard. And he is one person that was in charge, working with the late CEO, just trying by all means to more or less push transactions within this entity. We are told that 2014, 2016, it was the time when this was very prevalent, what was happening within the entity. So the statements were manipulated, we are told, and we hear that at least fraudulent activities were also carried out at the company, and that is what the court is trying to ascertain right now. And he is involved in a scandal that is worth about 21 billion rand, which is at the center of what we find him trying to argue here. And we know very well that this comes at a time when we're seeing certain of these executives, some of them have passed away, others are getting into a plea bargain, like what we saw yesterday with the chief financial officer, who then decided to say, let me enter into a plea bargain for a lesser sentence. But it doesn't look like that is the route that Grobler will be taking here.
To take. But tell us the reasons of the courts, why was there not enough evidence, or was it not urgent enough? What was it?
So the matter is sitting before Magistrate Sutralelo, and here we saw her trying to understand why then we find ourselves here, the court's hearing of the need for a postponement in this regard. The state is represented by Advocate Van Rensburg, and we saw him saying that we've sat down with Advocate Maritz for the defense, and we've decided that we need to move this matter to at least the 14th of February in 2025. The reasons being that, one, we've seen the CFO entering into a plea bargain. They're saying that that will have a bearing on where this case and how this case moves, evidence consolidation and everything of that nature. So they would like to really study what came out of the court yesterday, so they can better present and prepare their defense here where their client is concerned. Another thing that they mentioned here is that there's an outstanding audit report that will give us a sense of everything else that was happening at the company, and we are told that that report will only be available by the 30th of November 2024, and both the state and the defense saying that they want some time to try and familiarize themselves with the contents of this audit report, as it's a pivotal document that will really more or less give us a sense of what has been happening between 2014 and 2016 at the company.
Big this collusion that they were doing with the late Markus Jooste, because obviously if Markus as the CEO and the CFO, they collude and say, okay, we are agreeing that we are going to falsify statements. You can imagine the damage that would have caused, particularly to shareholders and investors of that company. Anything around of that sort about the impact of this that you've come across so far?
It's scandalous, and we know that more than the shareholders, there are people that have been really investing in the company with the hope that they would get the best in terms of its holding, its standings within the JSE and its operations within South Africa. Those people have really lost. It's wiped out. Their life savings have have been wiped out, and most of them will be looking to the courts. One thing that I was looking for today when I got to Court 8 of the Pretoria Specialized Commercial Crimes Court were some victims that would be there trying by all means to see how they'll salvage. Most of them were not there. Yeah, but we'll wait and see. The 14th of February 2025 is when this matter then sits. It's back in the Pretoria Specialized Commercial Crimes Court.
Katlego, thank you so much for your time. Unfortunately, we're out of time. That's Katlego Legodi, keeping an eye on that case, and it sits again next year in February.